well, as I said in my talk, you guys have been involved in this a long time. Lots of people know it. Thank Dave for being your ambassador.
Well, the pay is good, so, you know.
Yeah. So there's a rebranding going on with Mount Meru Coffee.
Yeah, we've changed the logo. That was done this summer.
Okay.
So I think I'll get started and
Yeah, more people might wander in.
Yeah.
or
They
people
usually
might
just,
wander in.
people generally start wandering in once they can tell it's going.
Once they figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. So what I'd like to do today is just give you a little bit of the Coffee Project history, probably more than you might be aware of. Talk about how coffee is, the origins of the coffee, how it's grown, what a typical Tanzanian farmer might experience and like, how we go about selling, the ambassador model, of which Dave is the ambassador, is our primary sales tool, but we have a couple others. Coffee Safari, which is, it's kind of a busy slide, but it shows you how the coffee goes from coffee plant to the United States and gets distributed. So it's kind of interesting that way. And then if we have time, we'll talk about some of our strategic goals. I became president of the project in 2018 on the death of our longtime president, Jerry Schmidt. And at the time I said, we need to rethink how we go about the project and what we're doing. It had been a long time since we kind of sat down and did any strategic planning. So unfortunately the pandemic got in the way, and but we did do the strategic planning in 2022 and 2023. And so anyway, let's see if I do this correctly. I did. And as I mentioned in the Temple Talk, some of this will be a repeat of what I said in the Temple Talk, but I'll try to add to it. And I'd like to do this informally, so if you have any questions or comments, please don't be afraid to interrupt me. We've been doing this for 25 years, helping the small coffee farmers on Mount Meru. Pastor was figured out that we had done a rebranding just recently. You can see on the left is what our logo was, and we've changed it to Mount Meru Coffee. Part of it is to appeal to the younger generation. Most of us old people are not tech savvy, but anyway. So we went through a process, and we actually hired a company to help us with the marketing. So it's kind of fun. Aru Meru is the northern part of Tanzania in East Africa. A little bit of the partnership history that you're probably aware of. Ed Weiscotton, who was a member here, maybe past a couple of years now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he and Pastor Elias Katoy became friends at Wartburg Theological Seminary, and it was through that relationship that the partnership was suggested to the Greater Milwaukee Synod. At the time that those conversations took place, I happened to be the treasurer of the Greater Milwaukee Synod, so I kind of sat in on all of that was going on, and it had never participated in anything quite like that before. And anyway, in the spring of '94, Bishop Kiyu came Bishop Kiyu asked to establish a synod with then Bishop Peter Rognitz. And the proposal was adopted by the assembly in the diocese in May of '95. In January of '97, the first delegation from Milwaukee went to Tanzania, and then the first delegation that we brought from Tanzania here was Bishop Akiu and the delegates in 1998. And it was during that visit and conversations with it that the question came up of, would you be willing to purchase coffee from us? There's lots of different aspects to the partnership between the diocese and the synod. We have parish partners. You are partnered with Singisi, and I'm not exactly sure how long that has been in place, but I want to say probably 10, 15 years, 15 years maybe.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Those partnerships started around 2007, 2008, so anyway. We also have an education subcommittee which tries to help the diocese. The diocese has 6 secondary schools that we try to support as best we can. Medical support, the diocese has Nukaranga Hospital, which for many years we've done things. They have a generator and some electrical systems that we've been able to help them with, and we purchased I want to say a new x-ray machine, but it's probably 10 years old right now. That's the problem with having been around too long. And then economic development, which you can kind of throw the coffee project into, because the only people that benefit the most from it are the farmers, not anyone else in the diocese. Although we have been able to share some of our profits with the diocese over the years. And then water projects. I mentioned drought has been a real problem in the diocese, and it's very similar to here. You either have too much or you have too little. So consistent water supply is important, both for coffee processing, but just general living. So the Coffee Project was an offshoot of the partnership. We are now a standalone corporation, 501c3, not-for-profit. But as a corporation, the ownership is basically the synod, so we're still connected closely with the synod. And then Hope Seed Project, I'm not sure you're familiar with that one. That's one where we provide the funds to purchase dairy goats for people who are the poorest of the poor, I guess would be the best thing. The goats allow the people to sell the milk and provide them with a little bit of income. And that's a whole project by himself. Mama Mariki is in charge of that, and she has just done a wonderful job. So anyway. You might want to invite Sue Johnson to come and talk to. She would be able to help you with the Hope Seed Project. So East Africa is where the diocese is located. That's a picture of Mount Meru there. I took that picture in 1999. So, but it's outside the Momella Lodge. Anybody seen the movie Hatari? You gotta be John Wayne fans to know that, but it was a movie that came out in the 50s. It was about basically zookeepers trying to capture animals, and it was filmed on the slopes and on the valleys around Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Meru. And Momella Lodge is where they stayed. So if you went to this lodge, there were all these pictures of John Wayne and I forget the other actors, but anyway. Mount Meru is a freestanding volcano. Mount Kilimanjaro, which is about 40 miles east, is a freestanding volcano. Most people don't hear about Mount Meru because 40,000 people a year try to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the big draw in the area. So East Africa, Tanzania sits on the Indian Ocean. The diocese sits kind of in the northern part of the country, as I mentioned, just west of Kilimanjaro. And not all of the diocese grows coffee. There's specific areas. As I mentioned in the speech, you have to be above 4,000 feet. The diocese office, Usa River, sits at about 3,000, so you have to go up a ways to get to where the coffee farms actually are. They don't go much past 6,000 feet, so there's a kind of a band that is the best area to grow the coffee. So if you looked at that geographically, the two areas that are circled are the areas where we have processing stations and where most of the coffee farmers come from. Now, those coffee stations will process coffee from any farmer that wants to come and agrees to participate with us. So the coffee comes from many different parts of the area. The Western District, which is where your partnership is, also has some wonderful coffee growing areas and some great looking coffee farms, but it's too expensive for them to transport the coffee from those farms to our processing centers. Some people do, but most people just can't afford to do that. That map kind of shows Rick Frowen, our current president, he put a lot of information on there. It shows you all the different partnerships that are taking place in the parishes in the diocese. The diocese has 65 parishes and over 300 worship points. Most parishes have multiple worship places. The parish has a pastor, but the subport parishes will have evangelists that do the weekly service, and then the pastor tries to get there once or twice a month to help them. Like here, the diocese, the pastors are the ones who can do communion and all the other sacraments. So, as I said, in 1998, they asked us, can we grow coffee? Or we grow coffee, could you buy a coffee from us? And that was an interesting question. As I mentioned, most of us knew nothing about how to import coffee. Many of us drank coffee, but as far as how that coffee got here, we didn't know. My knowledge of coffee right now is about 100,000 times greater than it was in 1998. So, other than I know it.
Can I ask where the processing centers, are those there or are they in the United States?
Those are here, or in Tanzania.
Okay, so it's shipped then after it's processed?
Correct.
Okay. When you
When
say
I get to the slide showing the safari, this will make a little bit more sense. I could try to do it now, but we've helped the farmers form a growers association, which is a kind of an overall co-op structure that they can, that's licensed by the Tanzanian rules, which is the law in Tanzania changes depending on who's in power and who's the current governor or president. Some of you may have heard or paid attention, they've had some political violence in Tanzania recently. It was the first time in 60 years that they've had violence with the transfer of power. And it's kind of hard to say. Most of the reports that we are getting are that the diocese area has settled down. People are getting back to normal. The internet is still spotty. So communications with them is questionable, but we praise God that most of the people have come through it okay. And this is just a personal note that unfortunately many of the people in the diocese are part of the opposition party. They're not part of the ruling party, so and they're not talking because they're afraid they're afraid to use the internet for fear that somebody will follow them and there will be repercussions if they say anything negative. So, and that's real. So anyway, but so someday we'll find out. But the good news is that things are quieting down. That's a picture of Bishop Q and then General Secretary Emil Kaya. In the diocese, the general secretary serves as like the chief operating officer for the diocese. Okay, so in 1998, we formed the partnership, or the partnership had been formed prior to that. As I mentioned in my speech, at the time that we formed this, they came in 1998, in their delegation, they asked us if we would grow coffee, and it was primarily because the coffee prices had tanked in the late 90s. And farmers were not growing coffee because they couldn't make any money on it. When the coffee prices went down, their existing co-ops, and there had been co-ops all over the mountain, failed, and so the only way the farmers had to sell their coffee was through independent buyers, and most of them were unscrupulous. They just said, "I'll give you pennies on the dollar. I'll give you pennies where you should have probably gotten dollars." So the coffee price had fallen dramatically, and the co-ops had closed. So thus the diocese, trying to be good shepherds of their flocks, said, how can we help people in the diocese? How can we help these farmers? Maybe we can figure out a way to sell coffee to the United States. And as I said, we didn't know how to do that. But we learned. And one of the ways we learned, in 2000, Pastor David Zelmer, who is the then pastor of Kingo Lutheran Church, and I'm a member of Kingo Lutheran Church now, and Ward Fowler, who is one of the founders of Altera, now Collectivo. Ward's parents, Ward grew up in Kingo in the parish, and so he was asked by Pastor Zelmer if he would come with us, or come with them to the diocese to determine what's available, what's possible at that point in time. And so we went, and these are pictures from 2000 when Ward went and met with the farmers. That picture of the machine, that's a depulping machine, and I'll try to explain that later, how that happened to be from some very dry periods. These are pictures we took in 2022, and that happened to be a dry period. So the Malala Processing Center was one of our first processing centers. And in the early part of the project, we were probably getting about 50 to 60% of the coffee from Malala. And this is one of the farmers, 84 years old. He planted the trees in the 1950s. The big problem we have today is, or not a big problem we have today, is that as the kids grew up, it's similar to here, they want to move away. And staying on the farm and becoming coffee farmers is not very exciting to them anyway. Okay. So we're in a process right now of trying to figure out ways to help them keep coffee attractive enough so that the young people are willing to invest their time and energy in the coffee. And there are some people, if you go onto our website, it's merucoffee.org, there's a testimony from a young man whose father is a coffee farmer, and he's proud to tell you that he only got through high school and college because his dad grew coffee. And now he's going to be a coffee farmer. They've figured out that they can be coffee farmers plus do other things. So it's finally working out. But lots of our farmers are old. So, how we done? Since we started importing, I mentioned 243 tons. That's close to 500,000 pounds of coffee. Rick Frone, our president, put together these statistics over there. It's 150,500 12-ounce bags and 41,000 for 204-pound bags and 6,000 gift packs. I think you know that the gift pack, David knows, you can get the sampler of the project, plus other kind of things. So of that, 2.8 is packaged, and as I said, we'll sell coffee commercially or to commercial roasters. Our Imperial Coffee has never really purchased coffee from us, even though it gives us a great buy or a great value for roasting. But with the current state of the coffee market in the United States, it's impossible for him to buy reasonable decaf coffee. And we've got a fixed cost in there, and so he said, how much would you charge me? And we came up with a deal, so he's buying decaf coffee from us. Our decaf coffee used to be chemically processed, and now it's a Swiss water process, which is more expensive for us, but that's okay. That's okay. Most people would rather avoid the chemical process that's happening. And then of that, $2.1 million has gone back to Tanzania, with the largest blue side over there, actual direct export costs, and that means coffee funds paid to the farmers. So you figure 1,000 farmers, you can kind of figure out, somebody can do the math and figure out about how much money each farmer gets. And it depends on how big your coffee farm is. You know, a 1 acre farm would probably reasonably support 50 to 100 plants. The larger farms might show whatever. We'll have more things. Generally, if it's a reasonable growing season, you can get 2.5 kilos of coffee off of one coffee tree. So that's about 6 or 7 pounds of coffee per tree. So it gives you an idea as to how much is worth. We also have 2 project managers in Tanzania. The only paid employees for the project are Felix and Enko. They are project managers in Tanzania. They coordinate what goes on with the 6 processing centers. They coordinate that would teach the farmers how to grow quality coffee and what's the best way to do it. And they said, we'd love to. And I said, how much will it cost? He said, virtually nothing to do. We pay about we pay $75 a year for farmer training, but most of that is transportation back and forth and meals, because the farmers, this is about 45 miles away from Mount Meru, so we have to transport them there, we have to provide them with meals, and we do that for 3 days in a row, so that's what the cost is for. But the training is basically free from TACRI. They loved it. They're trying to get other farmer groups to join, and they've tried to be successful with that. The cupping score, coffee gets cupped. There's a term called specialty coffee, and it's the simplest way to think about it. Specialty coffee should have at least an 80 or above rating. If you get some of the very expensive coffees like Blue Mountain in Jamaica and some of the Hawaiian coffees, those are rated 90 to 100. Virtually impossible to get there, especially when you're buying from 1,000 different people. Because as I said, there's 60 factors and it's hard to control all of those factors. But we've been able to raise our score from an average of about 79 over close to 83. And for the last 3 years, we have not brought any coffee in that's rated less than 80. So that's wonderful. We'll see what this year's is like. They had the growing season started off just great. They were getting plenty of rain. This is the time of year that it needs to rain in Tanzania for the coffee plants to flower. And they had a wonderful flowering last year. And then the coffee ripens in June and July and August, and they wound up with a drought and cold, and much of the coffee did not mature, basically. It didn't ripen. So we'll see how much we have. The other thing we use as a trend to see that the training is working is that the amount of coffee that they harvest that is actually export grade, and that percentage has gone up, and that's the good news. So they're following the techniques, and the percentage of coffee that's export grade has gone up. Anyway, and the capital improvements. We've helped Mulala purchase a new processing machine. We've helped Nia over there on the right, build a storage center. And the people standing in front of water tanks is a way to control the water process. As I said, 65% of all the revenues that we have received goes back to Tanzania, and we try to increase that every year. So I talked about the coffee safari. So the bean grows on a plant, it gets harvested, goes to a processing center to be depulped, then goes to drying beds. Once it's dry, it's called parchment, and it gets stored in burlap bags. Trucked to a processing center in Moshi called the Tanzanian Coffee Curing Company, and it gets milled, and that's where they divide it up between, this is AA, AB, and Peaberry, and it's primarily by size. It really looks like a grate that goes like this, and the coffee falls out, depending on the right hole that it goes to. It's kind of fun. We transport the beans to Tonga, where it gets put on a container and a ship. It used to go through the Suez Canal. Last year it had to come around the Horn. It will probably continue to come around the Horn until they decide how they want to, if and when they want to have any peace in the Middle East. The coffee goes to Newark or Norfolk, where it clears customs. It gets put on a train to Chicago, and then from Chicago it goes by truck here to Milwaukee to Imperial Coffee Roasters. Imperial roasts coffee for us every Monday, and they deliver it to Martin Luther, where we package it and process it, and all of that, and then it comes out to you. So we either ship it to you or deliver it to you, depending on how it gets done. All of that stuff is done by volunteers. So this kind of tells you, these are the people that are helping us volunteer at this point in time. We're always looking for new volunteers. Many hands make light work. So what they do is they pull the orders together. Dave will send us an email that says, this is how much coffee I would like for St. Matt's today. And then they log the orders, they package it up, and they put label boxes on it. And I say we're all volunteers. We have 2 marginally employable people that do the grinding and packaging for us. And they've been with us for almost 20 years. It's hard to believe. But they're great. When we were at Florist Avenue, early in the process, before we moved to Martin Luther, my wife asked the pastor at the time, he said, do you have any people who might be interested in part-time work? And Colleen and Robert showed up, and they've been with us ever since. They do an excellent job. We're always looking for volunteers, both to do this processing, but also to participate on the board with various things. We could really use some help with technology and people who are savvy with internet sales and the social media. We're working with a group of people out of Carthage College, a group of students, to help us put together some marketing plans. And they looked at our our Facebook page and said, "You haven't posted in well over a year." And I said, "Yeah, you're right, I haven't." Because I'm the one who was doing it, and I just have not been able to do it. And I haven't figured out, I know we have an Instagram account, but I haven't figured out how to connect the two and make it work. So Dave is our coffee ambassador. This was some pictures of one of our coffee, actually that was him, that picture is in the St. Matthew's basement. This was an ambassador group meeting a couple of years ago. We try to get the ambassadors together once a year to encourage them, but also tell them what's new. We introduce any products that we might have that might be new. So those are the kinds of things we can do for you. I said we're increasing the amount of commercial sales, and a coffee shop in Corning, New York called Soulful Cup. It turns out the woman who owns is connected with the diocese or connected with the Usa River Parish, and so she's been buying coffee from us for about 15 years. And she's the one who formed the women's groups in Tanzania, which is kind of exciting. So here's our product offerings. Christmas traditions, rich flavors, here it is. Cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, and a hint of chocolate. If you enjoy flavored coffee, that's the only flavored coffee I'll ever drink. And I like to drink my coffee black, so anyway. We have, I was going to bring some along, but forgot to pick them up. We have hand-thrown coffee mugs available. It has a picture of our new logo on it. It's really quite nice. You've seen them in specialty stores at various places. It's the same, at least in the Midwest, it's the same potter that makes all of them. They just have a different way. They just put your different logo on it. It's great. The six-pack sampler gives you all of the flavors plus regular and pea berry, and then the four-pack gives you regular, pea berry, and decaf, and Christmas traditions. So it's if you're looking for a Christmas gift to somebody who likes coffee, it's a great way to do it. And we also have logo traveler mugs. These are available on the website, but Dave can also order them. He can order them for us. And then the fabrics, which are any of the seamstresses here? Oh, thank you very much. You did a beautiful job. I've got some, Dave's got some over on the in the display. When we introduced these last week at the ambassador meeting, we sold over $3,000 of product, and it's absolutely great. At our board meeting this last week, one of the board members said, "We should keep doing this." And we kind of went, it was a lot of work to work. You know how much work it was, but it was great. Brenda Skelton, who's been a consultant for us for many years, kind of organized that, and I call her the organizer bunny.
Yeah.
She just keeps moving, and but she had done that. We decided, as Bishop Erickson said, I think we're going to just limit supply.
Oh.
We'll keep the price up by controlling the amount of product that's available. But anyway, but we still have some. It's, please, if you want some, I can take the money for what I brought, and Dave can figure out how to work it over there. So the products, and they're just gorgeous stuff. I mentioned our strategic plan that we did 3 years ago. Our mission: living the gospel, building economic justice, respect together with the coffee farmers of Mount Meru. Our values: we're inspired by Christ, we strive for justice, we believe in mutual relationships, we embrace joyful hospitality, we seek to be stewards of the earth, and we serve the we serve to change lives. All of that sounds pretty straightforward, but it took us 2 years to get there. But it was great. So our key strategic goals are sustainable finances. At this point in time, we are very stable financially. We are selling enough coffee and enough of the coffee that we import each year to cover the cost of next year. Our finances are, we advance the money today for coffee that we will get 9 months from now, and then it gets sold. So we need to be able to be strong, financially strong enough to cover that cycle of purchasing. Marketing, sales, and operations, we're working on that. We could use any volunteers who'd like to help us put together and monitor our marketing plans. Ron Bohr, who was in that picture, was our marketer for several years, and he's gracefully retired. And and there's different, there's lots of different ways to market product, and we just need to find some people that will help us put together a consistent plan.
Has there been any thought to expanding to other synods other than just the Milwaukee Synod?
We have
In Wisconsin or close by?
Yes, the answer is we've done those kind of outreaches in the past. Synods are a lot like congregations. They all have their favorite missions and things that they'd like to do. Most of the synods have partners with other places around the world. All of the 65 synods is there 65? No, all of the dioceses in Tanzania have partners in the United States, synods that have matched up with them. That's the only country in the world that's happened. And so we have tried to approach various people. Our latest success, and I call it a success, we did very little to do it. One of the evangelists in Tanzania's daughter went to Pacific Lutheran in California and became friends with some of the pastor and the staff of Thousand Oaks. I think that's the right term, Thousand Oaks Lutheran Church. And they're a fair trade congregation. They started buying coffee from us a couple years ago. So it's word of mouth, it's relationships building. If I could spend 6 years building a relationship with people in St. Paul, I'd be glad to send to self-centered. But we're open to it. It's just that it's difficult to find people that are willing to participate with us. And then organizational development. Those are our keys. So a big thanks. We have to thank the farmers of Mount Meru for their continued support. Thank you for your partnership with Singisi. I know that that's a great church. I've had some of the most exciting worship experiences of my life in Singisi. The founding fathers, I didn't put it in this slide, but I've got a list of about 25 people who have been around and started the project, and we appreciate them. Our coffee ambassador, Dave, we don't exist without the coffee ambassadors, and then that model has seemed to work, and we appreciate all the effort that we're. For you who buy the coffee, we appreciate you. Every time you buy a bag, know that somebody in Tanzania, 65 cents of every dollar is going to go back to Tanzania. And for those of you who, some of you have donated, we could use all the donations. We have other projects in Tanzania. We don't use coffee sales to help the farmers with their capital improvements. We try to do that, and we don't do it for training. We try to get people to contribute to those types of things. As a 501c3, your contribution is tax deductible, if you want to know that. And then we thank the seamstresses, one of them right there, in fabric donations. It's kind of, it's always interesting, if you go to Tanzania, I'll come back with 3 or 4 gatangas, which are just basically the wide swaths of cloth that they use to wrap themselves. They love to give them to you as gifts. And, but you get home and what are you going to do with it? You could make a shirt. This was actually made in Tanzania, so anyway. And they'd love us to do that. Obviously. Other questions?
I'm always telling people here, they'll ask me, is this Mount Meru coffee when they get coffee at the coffee hour or something? And I tell them, of course it is. Anytime you have coffee here anywhere for any function, that's always Mount Meru coffee. And one week I had someone say to me, I don't like Mount Meru coffee, it doesn't taste good. And then they proceeded to go to the coffee table and have a cup of coffee.
That doesn't work.
No.
Interesting. Yeah, you know, coffee is like a lot of other things. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's okay. What I say to people who don't like coffee, buy it and give it away. You'll find somebody who likes it. So, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.